Kevin says I should start from the beginning. When the Centre for Community Studies was dissolved by a swing in political inertia in Saskatchewan, Dad moved on to other jobs, including working at the Co-op College and Farmers Union and the Saskatchewan Government's Land Bank program. All were aligned with his need to do the right thing again and work in a cause to help other people, especially farmers and laborer type people. All of this exposed him to other people with similar motives, some of whom are here today, and we appreciate your being here. It also exposed him to conflict with the bureaucracy and detractors of the aims of the programs that he worked in. He was fired from the Co-op College without cause, and many courageous people came forward to speak publicly in his defense. Even though he was exonerated and respected by caring people, a period where no employer would hire him was a significant price that he paid for his activism. The Farmers Union and the Land Bank were challenging jobs where he advocated for farmers who had been wronged and young farmers trying to get a start in farming and retiring farmers who wanted to pass their ability to farm onto their younger people without becoming bankrupt themselves. Dad's unyielding commitment to the ideals of the program resulted in conflict and caused significant stress in the last part of his career. Dad's retirement event was not just the people who he worked with most recently. It was attended by many people who he'd worked with throughout his life, and it was the people who were there, academics, activists, co-workers, supporters, and friends, all spoke of Dad's significant commitment to the programs and the ideals that he pushed through his professional and his working career. It was really a profound recognition of Dad's contribution. Though times change and societies have new problems, new priorities, and new terminology, and new applications of ideas, there's continuity to the rightness of things. And some of the wisdom that Dad had and that he worked for are no less relevant in my kids' time and my grandkids' time than they were in my father's time. They continue, there's continuity. Dad had difficult times, but not everything in Dad's life was an obstacle. About 40 years ago, he found Jessie. Jessie was his companion and sounding board, an encyclopedic source of knowledge, news junkie, and even his memory aid. How many times do you remember Dad halfway through a sentence asking Jessie, what was his name, or what year was that? And of course Jessie knew. Being Dad's companion was not always easy, but Jessie stuck to him through thick and thin. Their love for each other was maybe the richest thing in Dad's long life. They shared political ideology and were active in many causes that stretched around the world to help people. They lived below their means to give substantially to others less fortunate and to support causes that they believed in. They also had many good years of traveling in Canada and around the world. They had time to enjoy dancing and socializing with friends, and they enjoyed their lot at Turtle Lake and, of course, their home and garden here in North Battleford. Cross-country skiing and golf were part of their active life, and there was always a social component to these activities. Getting together after a ski was important to Dad as the ski itself, and he enjoyed going to Coffee Row and talking to retired farmers and others there. Anyone with a story to share, he loved to communicate with. His hearing loss was cruelly ironic for someone who loved to listen to stories and interact the way he did. Jessie and Bill were regular, generous hosts to many people. Friends and family could expect to be welcomed by a "come on in" when you came to the door, and a heartfelt handshake and a smile from Dad, and from Jessie a hug and kind words and making everything right. Guests might be offered a wee demitasse or a bit of the grape for medicinal purposes only. He had a great sense of humor, and he relished kibitzing with Jesse and his friends. I remember Dad roaring with laughter when he spoke to Jim McCrory or Harold Clisby or other friends on the phone, or when they were there to visit. Dad likely shed more tears laughing than he did in sorrow through his life. Dad had true empathy for people. He would actually feel their pain, and he would wince when he thought of other people hurting. And he told me that when we take our kids in for their inoculations, for their needles, we should be careful not to show sympathetic pain reaction, because it'll instill fear in them, and it would be hard to undo. And Dad could be pretty stoic and composed, but that stoicism and composure had limits. That limit happened to be swarms of wasps. I don't know if any of you have seen that with Dad, but Dad could move pretty fast. He was an outfielder when he played ball when he was younger, and he could cover a lot of ground really quickly, especially when properly motivated by wasps. And he could blast through a 6-foot Carigani hedge without even slowing down, or be into the lilacs, hands waving, leaves flying. And I remember those incidents well. After seeing that a couple times as a kid, it's a wonder that we'd go outside at all. So much for hypodermic needles, right? Yeah. Dad was the most morally courageous person I've ever met or ever known, but those wasps, they got to him. When I grew older, I found that Dad's shoes weren't all that big physically, but metaphorically they were much bigger, and no one will fill those shoes. The world was challenged by Dad, kind of called out into the street to answer for its injustices, and maybe made a wee bit better as well. The American dream and the pursuit of happiness was rejected by Dad as being too narrow and individualistic. What about contributing to the common good, he'd say? What about helping other people? You don't get to be 90 years old without a few regrets and the pain of battles lost. But Dad did achieve happiness in life, I think, and not the kind of happiness that comes with mansions and Cadillacs, but through reflection on a life well lived. The day before he died, I was in to visit him. Jessie was there, of course, near the end of her long vigil. As you know, Dad had a long illness, and Jessie was incredible. And I wasn't sure how aware he was. He was on morphine, but I rubbed his ear a little bit, and I'm not sure if he got it, but. If he didn't get it, I guess he already knew. There's a saying that we stand on the shoulders of giants. Dad would be uncomfortable being referred to as a giant, I know, but he was in many ways. Dad disagreed with the idea that we're all born equally. He would say that some of us have obstacles or advantage or privilege that other people don't have. It's true, not everyone gets to be Bill Hope's son, to ride on your shoulders when you're little. But I would suggest that we here today, his friends and family, all sit on his shoulders to a certain extent. We're privileged to have been there with Dad. So I guess in finale, I'd like to, there's some things that I maybe didn't tell Dad when I had a chance, and what I tell him now is that the view is still pretty good from up here, from on your shoulders, like when I was a kid. And thanks for the lift, Dad, and thanks for making the Metalworks sing for me.